Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is the handover of the Benimar Tessero 481. So as I start the walk round on the driver's side of the motorhome first, the first point you get to is your flue for your heating system. So this gives the location of where the boiler is on board the vehicle, so it's underneath the bench seat. And as we have the heating on at the moment, but I've got it operating on both gas and electric, you can feel the fumes coming out. If it was just solely on electric, nothing would come out of here. It's more for a vent for gas. This is where you'd fill your fresh water up. So your fresh water cap is lockable with the habitation key. And what you need to do is you need to carry yourself a hose pipe with some hose pipe fittings, as it's mainly just a brass tap on site. Placing the flat end of the hose into the motorhome and connecting the other end onto the tap. And then you can fill your vehicle, look on board and see how much water you've got on the control panel, or you can just wait until it simply overflows and you know you've got a full tank. To drain off the fresh water, it's underneath the vehicle. So underneath the vehicle there is a green cap just here, and it's just a screw-on cap. You just need to take that off and that will drain off all fresh water in the freshwater tank. So if you're winterizing or you've taken on a source of contaminated water, you want to allow the water out, but more so in the winter so that the water doesn't freeze and you don't become a victim of frost damage where you're in for an expensive repair bill because your freshwater tank will have cracked. Storage in here, so you can see that you've got your spare wheel, your jack and your brace, you've got a light, 240 volt socket and 12 volt in there. This is your WC, so your cassette locker, and to get your cassette out all you need to do is lift the blue clip and slide the cassette out of the van. You can then carry it or you can wheel it to the disposal point, which is normally beside your toilet block. And to dispose of the waste in the cassette, take the blue cap off, pop that to one side for a moment. So when you start to pour, if you just press the blue button in, it'll allow a bit of air in, allow it to all pour nicely out, and then once you've done that there is normally a tap. So you pop some water in, pop the cap back on, shake it about, give it a rinse, tip out again before going in with a cap full of chemicals. So that's 120 ml of either green or blue liquid. You pop that in and then you can just pop it back into the van, it'll clip into place and it's good to go. Behind the back driver's wheel is where you have your wastewater outlet point. So there's a handle here, you pull that, and as you can see there's water draining out of the centre of the motorhome. This is your dirty water, so this is your shower water, your hand basin water, your dishes water, or anything that you've drained down a plug hole. Simply drive over the grid on the way out of your site, pull the handle, allow it to drain off, because you don't want to drive around with the added water weight, because once it's dirty you can't do anything with it. Get rid of it, it'll make you lighter on fuel and it'll mean that you've got a bit better of a payload because you're not going to be potentially driving overweight. Coming round to the back of the vehicle, you've got your high level brake light and reversing camera. If you are to fit a bike rack to the van, this is where the back panel has been strengthened to take a bike rack, and it would be a Pro-Safe Yama bike rack, as these are Fiamma bars. 2 fridge vents. You do have corner steadies on the back of this van as well, so there's a handle, it just pops onto the sides of it and you can wind them down just to give it a little bit more stability if it's going to be windy. But remember to bring them up. You don't necessarily have to use them all the time, just in the wind you might want to pop them down. LPG, so liquid petroleum gas, this is your gas locker. So this is where you keep your gas bottles. I've put my test bottle on here to show you your gas appliance is working. So in here you can fit 2 bottles, and the motorhome always runs off propane, not butane, because butane will freeze in the winter, whereas propane won't. It's got a lot of a higher freezing point. So make sure when you put your bottle on, you strap it in. This pipe here that goes to the top of the cylinder is known as a pigtail. So it's left to tighten, right to loosen, and it's hand tight until you get your adjustable spanner or gas spanner and nip it up, and then you can turn the bottle on. Only turn it on a couple of turns on the top, because if you need to isolate it, it's easy just to turn it off. Always make sure that the bottle is turned off when you leave your site, so you're nice and safe for yourselves and other road users when travelling. And once one bottle is empty, you can just replenish to another if you are planning on carrying two. And that is a 6 kilogram propane bottle. Here you do have your external gas supply, so if you were wanting to use a Kadak or outdoor barbecue for some outdoor dining and cooking, you just connect here, so you'll get a quick release connector. You'll need 2 Jubilee clips and some orange gas hose, and it'll use the bottle on board the vehicle instead of using a separate bottle. And you just turn the gas tap on. Underneath you've got a cold water shower, so if you wanted to hose the dogs off, the boots, the bikes, you can do, making sure that the pump's on inside the vehicle. To hook the motorhome up, you get your hooker bleed, lift the collar, hook the vehicle first, then the sight, and do it in reverse order when unhooking, so that you're never walking around with a live lead. Vent forward behind your microwave, your awning light, some storage in here, but you do have all your electrics in here, so we'll show you this when we're in here now. So you've got your charger, which charges your leisure battery off mains hookup. You've got your 12 volt fuses, so if something 12 volt isn't working, try here, because it's probably a fuse that's blown, and you just pick the fuse out and replenish the fuse. They all listed what they do, so do carry some spare blade fuses, and they are just the standard size, not the micro, so you can buy packs of them on Amazon and eBay and just carry them with you. And then should you be getting a problem with 240 volt, you've got your mains trips here. So if you weren't receiving power, the best way to check is try and trip the van out. If it's tripped like it has there, we've got power. If it hasn't, it's not where you're receiving power from. It could be a lead, it could be where you're getting the power from that's stopping, that's not providing the electric to the van. But if it trips, you've got power. If it doesn't, it's not the motorhome. Coming to the passenger door on the Ford Transit, you do have the location of your fuel filler. So it's capless with it being the Ford, so you just pop the fuel filler in there and fill with fuel. And then underneath you've got AdBlue. So AdBlue on a Ford is 22 litres, and it will come up with a light on the dash when it needs AdBlue. From a full 22 litres, it'll do 5,500 miles. When it's covered 4,000 miles and it's got 1,500 miles left, the light will appear, and it'll give you a mileage countdown until 0, and it'll just say 1,000 miles until 0 start, because it's asking you to fill the AdBlue up. You can buy it in the drums, or you can buy it on the pump now for about 150 a litre and fill this up. Depending on how many miles you do a year will determine how many times you need to fill that up. It might just be a thing you do once a year. Engine battery for the Ford is underneath the driver's seat. The leisure battery is underneath the passenger seat. To turn your seats in the cab, you've got a little half bar above. So you've got a main bar to pull the seat forward, and then you've got a half bar here, and that'll allow you to turn your seat round. Both driver and passenger are both the same, but always make sure before you travel they're physically locked into place for your own safety. If you're putting a child seat in the front, you can turn the airbag off here by using the Ford key. So to open your bonnet, with it being a Ford, you use the key. So you go above the Ford logo, pop it in the front there, turn it to your left to pop the bonnet, and then to release it off its second catch to your right. And in here you do have your various fluids. So you've got your coolant, your screen wash, your brake fluid, your power steering fluid, and your oil filler, with your oil dipstick down here for checking the levels. your weight plate, so your 3.5 ton gross vehicle weight. If you were to put a tow bar on this and plant it to anything, you can tow up to 5.5 tons. So in theory, you can tow a 2-ton trailer behind the van. And then should you ever need to jump start the vehicle, this is your positive point and your negative is just on the side of the engine here. So just rub your black lead on there until it gets a spark to earth it out, and that is your earthing point. To work your Benimar 12 volt control panel, if you hooked up, you'll get this light here, which means you're receiving mains 240 volt. You've got your master switch here, which turns the vehicle on and off. And then you can turn your 12 volt system on, which is just this button here, which runs all the lights, the pumps. So turn your 12 volt on, turn your pump on, making sure that you've got enough water on board, which I'll show you how to check in a moment. You've got your awning light, which is the light on the outside of the vehicle. And you do have, going down the side, one of the trailer, which is your leisure battery reading. Take the hook about to get a true reading of your leisure battery. One of the truck, which is your cab battery. Fresh water is this one here. When that goes into empty, it'll go red, and when the other one goes red, it means the waste's full and it's time to drop your wastewater. So that's your control panel. It's very simple to use. Obviously on off, 12 volt on off, pump, which you've got to have on for your taps, toilet, shower, exterior shower, awning light if you're sitting outside, leisure battery reading, vehicle battery reading, fresh water reading. So on the side of the wardrobe, this is your Truma digital control panel for your heating and hot water. So I'm going to show you in the next clip how this works. But as you can see there, it's running, so we've got your heating and hot water on in the vehicle. So to operate your digital Truma CP control panel, to turn the system on and off, you'd press and hold to turn it off, press it once to turn it on and it'll come on, and then to get into the menu you just press it once. You'll notice you've got a thermometer in a van flashing at the top corner. If you press enter, this is how hot you want your vehicle. So you've got all the way off in the summer when you don't want the heating, or you've got all the way to 30 degrees in the winter when it's very cold. So once you're happy, so if we say 27 degrees there, that's how hot I want the inside of the motorhome to be, I'd press enter, and that'll save that at 27 degrees. Now you've got a thermometer in some water. This is how hot you want your water. So if you don't have any water on board, you'd have it on off. 40 degrees for showering, 60 degrees for doing your dishes, but it's entirely up to yourself how hot you want your water. Or you've got boost, which will turn off your heating and prioritize your water first. But for this, we'll just say 60 degrees because we want the heating to run along with the water. Next, you've got what source you're heating the water and the vehicle off. So you've got gas, so make sure your gas bottle's on and it's turned on. You've got mix 1, which is 750 watts of electric and gas. You've got mix 2, which is 1850 watts of electric plus gas. So you'd use mix 2 in the winter. If you're away and it was really cold, use a mix 2. Will boost the vehicle up to temperature because you're using both sources together. Then you can turn it over to electric. So you've got electric 750 watts EL1, and you've got EL2, which is 1850 watts of electric. Don't waste your gas if you're on a site, unless you're away and it's really cold and you're using mix 2 for the first 10-15 minutes. Then allow electric to continue to heat the motorhome and maintain the temperature. Because if you're on a site, you've paid your site fees after all, you'll not want to waste your gas. Then you've got your fan in the top right hand corner, so eco or high or boost. This is just a 12 volt assisted fan. So eco will use less 12 volt. High obviously uses more fan speed, so it's going to use a little bit more 12 volt. And boost uses full power on the fan, which is going to use the most out of the 12 volt battery. sleep with it on eco because it's a lot quieter than sleeping with it on anything else. If you're going to sleep with the heating on in the winter, you've got a timer so you can time the heating to come on and off just the once though. Clock in the middle, and then spanner. You can go all the way down to reset, and to reset the control panel, if you ever get a warning triangle in the middle, reset, preset, click again, and it will restart your control panel. And then to turn off, press and hold, and it'll say off, and it'll completely turn itself off. So to operate your electric drop down bed, making sure your control panel's on, so you get the circuit for electrics to here. You'll be able to press and hold the up and down button. You can stop this at any height because you can make underneath up as well. So if you were to stop it at this height, you've got your ladder here which clips on, and you can get in and out the bed, so it's like a double bunk bed. Heads at this end, feet at the shorter end. Always ensure that you take your pillows off before you put the bed down up, and you don't put too thick of a mattress topper or quilt on because it could put pressure on the motor, unnecessary strain on the motor. And when you're winterizing it, there's a light here to turn on. So like I was saying, when you winterize the vehicle, if you always take your bedding off and you just put your bed up so far, don't put it all the way up, allows the air to circulate on top of the mattress, because if you put it too close you could get some marking on the ceiling. It is plastic ceiling, but you could get some marking on there where the mattress is rubbed up over the winter time. Safety nets can clip onto here, so the safety net's underneath if you're putting children up there. And then underneath, if you want the bed to make up, you would just position the table. There's a little key here. It's because your table's electric. Don't hold the key, hold the front of the barrel, so just hold. And you just want to push your cushions out the way a bit so you can get the table down. Like so. And then there is infill cushions that you use, so you'd use this one here and pop that into this space. And then the infill cushion in the wardrobe. That would go in there, and that has created your double bed below. You can turn all the cushions the other way, which is what I would recommend, because you get a flatter surface to sleep on. You don't get the leather finish in the bullnose and the ribs of the cushions. Turn them upside down and you've got a flatter surface to sleep upon. So now in the corner washroom, to operate your toilet, ensuring the pump's on, which it is, press the blue button and this is your fresh water flush. So before you even think about using the toilet, you put a little bit of water in. Helps lubricate the seal between the blade and the cassette. And then what you want to do is, before you use it, you want to open the blade. So this grey handle here is known as the blade handle. Slide that to the right. You can now use the toilet. Flush your toilet after use. If you have bought the blue chemical to go on the cassette and the pink together, the pink normally goes in a separate header tank, which a motorhome doesn't have. It's more for a caravan. But what you could do is get an empty spray bottle, put so much pink in and dilute it, spray the bowl, flush, and then after use you want to close the blade again. If you don't close the blade, when you try and get the cassette out the side of the van, it won't come out, and you'll know what you've done because the mechanism is engaged and it's not allowing the cassette to come out. But on the back here you do have a indication of when the cassette's full, so it's green there, but you can see there it's got a little bit of red because we've just tested it with water when it's been in the workshop and when we're doing the video. So it's starting to go to red until it goes solid red, and then the cassette's full and needs to be emptied. Washroom lights here. toiletry cabinet, duckboard in the shower can be removed for cleaning, but always make sure that you clean your shower screens out with nothing harsh, no bleaches, because you'll take the finish off. Just soap and a microfiber or some Dettol spray, nothing harsh that's going to damage the finish of the shower surround and tray. Making sure that your shower screens are tied back before you travel so they're safe and they're not going to damage anything. Hanging rail for wet coats, so if you've been caught in the rain, put your coats on hangers in here, shut the door and put the heating on. This is the smallest place in the vehicle and it will get nice and warm so they'll dry out in no time. And always ensure that when you are winterizing, so when you're parking it up for the winter and you're not using it, don't forget about the shower head. So just remove the shower head from the shower hose here. Lie the hose in the shower tray so no water can freeze in this pipe, because you would leave all your taps in the open position. So from the shower to the hand basin to the kitchen sink, they'd all be open, and obviously your fresh and your waste outside the vehicle would be fully drained off. And then you do have your oven. Underneath, you've got some storage in here so you can keep your pots and pans and bits and pieces in there. Making sure that you do push the catches in. So you've got a little bit of storage there, a large pan drawer, and then you do have your cutlery drawer along with 4 gas isolation taps. So you've got your fridge, your heating and hot water boiler, your hob and your barbecue point. So these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually serviced. If you've got any problems with gas, I would always recommend turning the bottle off. But should you need to do it in a hurry and you maybe while camping, you can isolate the appliance you think that's broken by just turning the valve. So this is on, that is off. Turn it back to turn it back on. But like I say, they're mainly for when the vehicle is annually habitation serviced. Pushing the catches in behind the handles will release the 2 overhead cabinets, and you do have your extractor with light on here as well. And you've also got your solar charger there, so it's just the solar's on, it's doing its own thing. Note that the solar panel won't work when the vehicle is hooked up, because mains hookup is a lot more higher of a voltage than a solar panel could ever supply. Solar panel will only work when the vehicle is not hooked up. But the best way to keep an eye on your batteries is look through the control panel to see if it's how much charge it's putting in. But every 2 weeks we strongly recommend that it's hooked up and the battery is charged fully. The solar panel will only maintain a charge in a battery, it will not bring it from flat to full. The hookup needs to do that job for you. Here you do have your sink, so you've got a draining board there as well which clips over and goes in the sink. Making sure the pump's on. I've had the hot water system on for the last 20 minutes or so, and the hot water there is red hot. So that water from the boiler is hot. So your system's working as it should. On the windows, just press the buttons in. Now to push the window out, you've got to push it all the way out to bring it in. Making sure they're always locked before you travel, along with your skylights, and you do have a fly screen and a blackout blind on your windows. Behind you have a 800 watt microwave, so you've got to be hooked up for this to work, and it's just 30-second increments. And there, so you've got your some storage above, and then you do have your fridge freezer. I'm going to insert a clip here now on how the fridge freezer operates. So we'll switch to that and then we'll carry on with it. So in your back L-shaped kitchen, you do have 2 gas burners on the hob. One electric hot plate. So the electric hot plate will only work when you connect it up to mains. Once you've had any of the 3 on, if you allow them to cool down before you put the glass lid down, otherwise you just shatter the glass and it goes into a million pieces and you'll forever be finding glass. So make sure it's cool enough before you put the glass lid down on the hob. Underneath you do have a grill, have your fridge freezer. So I'll show you how to use this. So in the middle here you've got your control panel, so you turn it on and off here. A will stay illuminated and there's a picture of a plug. A stands for automatic energy selection, so it picks out the best source that's available to the fridge. So we're hooked up now, so it's gone to hook up. We've also got the gas turned on, but it knows not to waste gas when hookup is on board, because hookup takes priority. So if you're on a site or if you're at home pre-chilling, have it on hookup. If I was to then take the hookup out the vehicle, it will switch over to gas and self-ignite by itself. Or if I was to start the engine, it would switch over again to 12 volt from the engine when the engine is running only, and it keeps it like a giant cool box. So it's like a travel mode. So it'll keep the shopping nice and fresh at the temperature it was previously set at. So it's got to be pre-chilled beforehand on either gas or electric, and you can travel with this and it'll just keep it nice and fresh. If you want to turn it off automatic, you've just got to press this button here, and now it's on mains by itself because you've selected that. Battery by itself, code 6, failure, loss of 12 volt because the engine isn't running, or you can self-select gas. Please note, with the automatic energy selection mode, it waits 20 minutes before lighting on gas once you've turned the engine off, as this is a safety mode in case you have forgot to turn your bottle off. You pulled into a petrol forecourt to fill up with diesel. The last thing you want is this sparking in a petrol forecourt. So you just have to manually select it for the first 20 minutes before bringing it back to automatic. Here you have your temperature, so 5 being the coldest when pre-chilling. Once you have put your shopping on board, turn it down to 3 or 4 max so it doesn't freeze the shopping, and then you can turn this on and it stops the temperature of the fridge and freezer from condensing this control panel here, and stops the doors from sticking with the rubbers. One thing I will say about the fridge is when you don't use it, you've got to leave the doors open. So if you're parking it up on the drive or parking it up for a couple of weeks, don't leave the doors shut because it traps the air in and it will start to smell. So underneath both, you've got these little toggles, and you just put the toggles into the hinges. And what that'll do is it'll keep the doors open so air can circulate in and out of the fridge and freezer box. So your boiler location is in here. So there's where your boiler is, but your drain down valve isn't in here. So further back there's a little cover that you take off, just clips off, and this here is known as an anti-frost valve. So it's from Truma, and what will happen is when this detects 3 degrees, it'll automatically pop the button out at the bottom where my finger is here, which will allow the 10 litres of water out of the boiler. In the winter, it's very important that you drain your boiler off, because if you leave the water in, it's going to freeze and it might crack or cause any damage to the boiler, which is then not covered under your warranty, because frost damage is the customer's responsibility to make sure that the water is out of the van. So in the order I would do it is I would start on the outside and I would drain me fresh and me waste, but your waste should already be drained from the last time you used the van. But I would just make sure that the handle's left open on the fresh and the waste. I'd come into the van and I'd open all my taps. I'd then come to here, and if it hasn't already popped out, grab a hold of the diamond and turn, and you can see the button at the bottom's popped out and the water's draining directly out underneath the van. I would then leave this open, go to the control panel and turn the pump on for 10 seconds just to blast any water out of the pipes and the pump, and then turn it off. And do not turn your pump back on once you've done this until you've put water in it, otherwise you could damage the motor in the pump. When I come to reuse the van, if it's cold and the button doesn't stay in, I just put the heating on first and allow the heating to heat this area up for 10 minutes, and then I would go and turn the diamond and push the button in. Fill the vehicle with water from a hose pipe at home, making sure that obviously you've put that cap back on the fresh water before you've done that. Fill the vehicle with water, close the waste off, come in, put the control panel on, go to the cold side of the tap first. You'll get a pressurised flow of cold water straight away. But as soon as you select hot, it's when it's going to transfer the water from the freshwater tank into the boiler. So you're going to get a lot of coughing and spluttering of water through the first tap you do for the first 3 to 4 minutes until you get a pressurised flow. Once you get a pressurised flow of water, your boiler is primed. Do the other taps and then you're good to go. But make sure that you drain off your boiler in the winter, otherwise you're in for a costly repair bill. So just make sure that it is open. So what I would do is do it myself, or check that the button has popped out and then just turn the diamond just to be sure that it is open. So to get your reverse camera on, you need to select reverse. So lift the collar on the Ford, pull it right the way along to the passenger side and lift it up, and there is your camera. It has come on, your reversing camera. So when you're reversing the van, you'll always be able to see the back of the van as well as using your 2 mirrors. But if you wanted the camera to stay on when you're travelling, you can just press camera and it'll stay on, but you can go to the home button to then change the sat nav or the radio.